last 2 Sundays this month, so far, we have been exploring the ideas of putting ourselves firmly on the pathway of plenty, living on and being involved in a journey of joy as we live from Spirit's purpose through us and as us, and being on a course of conscious creation. So a path of God's plenty, a journey of joy by living on purpose, and a course of conscious creation. That's been our theme. That's where we've been. That's where we're going to go today and tomorrow or next Sunday. So the last 2 Sundays, we've taken a little assessment to see where you were in those 3 areas. How many remember that assessment? And remember your number. Okay, a lot of hands dropped when I asked about remembering the number. All right, that's okay. We're not going to take it again today. So if you don't remember your number or you weren't here the last 2 Sundays, I strongly encourage you to jump online, listen to, or watch the last 2 Sundays of the first 2 Sundays, I should say, of this month, or the last 2 Sundays, so you can get caught up to where we are and take that assessment, because I really would love for us to be able to say, this is where I was when we started this series, and this is where I am now. And you can do that if you back up and take the assessment. Really, this month has been about living a life we love to live. That's being on the path of God's plenty. It's been about living in harmony with our divine nature and the purpose that is there in our souls, that was planted in there when we came into this experience. That's being on the journey of joy. And this month has been about absolutely living a life by design, not by default. So that means the course of conscious creation. Living a life by design, not by default. The fact is, we all know this, but I want to say it again, we are always creating our life. Always. You can't not create. The question is, are you creating it just by default because you're just on automatic pilot and you're just doing your thing and you're letting your thoughts go wild? You're just creating, by default. Or are you actually designing that life? Are you designing the life that you would love living? How is your life being lived, by design or default? We are, this month, talking about living it by design. So we've talked about creating a deep relationship. In fact, we've looked at it as a partnership with our CSO, and that stands for, CSO stands for? Chief Spiritual Officer, otherwise known as? God, otherwise known as? We're doing Panama. Yes, the voice that loves me, otherwise known as all those things. Yes, creating a relationship, a partnership with this essence, this power, and the CSO term comes out of Pam McCarthy's book, A Path to Wealth, which is what inspired, one of the books that inspired this month. The other one is Wallace Wattles, this one right here, Science of Getting Rich, and what it means, a rich life. Not just rich in money, but that as well. So yes, having a relationship, having a partnership with this CSO, and knowing that in that partnership we have 4 things to do. 4 things, and that's it. What are they? The first one is, real quick review, what is it? Number 1, get clear about what you want. That is your job. Nobody else can do that for you. You must be clear about what it is you desire. Number 2, align yourself with what you want. Align yourself with what you want, not with what you don't want. We are so good at aligning ourselves with what we don't want. Your job is to align yourself with what you want. Number 3,
be grateful in advance.
Be grateful in advance for receiving what you want. That's a great way to align yourself with it. And number 4, was that you, Mary Beth, back there? Way to go. Follow whatever guidance you get from your CSO. 4 things. Those are our jobs. And then the CSO has a job. What is that? Everything else. Everything else. Leave everything else up to God, up to divine intelligence, up to infinite source, whatever term you want to use. Everything else is up to God. So we've explored that. And then last week I offered you a 30-day challenge. A 30-day challenge to have a meeting every day with your CSO. How many of you have taken me up on that challenge? Good job. Excellent. And I would just love to invite the rest of you to come play. Now, maybe you didn't know about the challenge. That's okay. That's okay. The sheet about what the challenge is all about is out in the foyer on that little table as you turn right, exiting our doors right there. It's on a purple half sheet. You can pick that up. If you're watching online, you can go online. It's right there. You can download it, and it tells you exactly what to do every day. It's you do a little reading. You write your letter of gratitude. All takes a half an hour or less. You read aloud your letter of gratitude, and you spend 5 minutes visioning. Envisioning, seeing, being in, putting yourself in the life that you would love to lead. 5 minutes, and then write down any nudges, any divine ideas, any inspiration, any action items. Write those things down. That's your meeting. You start your day with that, or you have that at some point in your day. 30 days. If you do for 30 days, I can promise you, you're going to have some shifts and changes. So congratulations. And you're seeing that, is that correct?
Are books available again?
Yes, and books are available again. Thank you for asking that question. Oh, look, he's got them right there. He got his, so very good. Books are in the library or in the bookstore. Yes, thank you for that. So today we're going to combine the work of May McCarthy from The Path to Wealth with the Science of Getting Rich and really focusing on a couple of ideas from that book, from The Science of Getting Rich. In addition to having our daily meetings with our CSO, in addition to all those activities that are a part of that meeting, there's something else critically important that we must do. And it is our theme for today, although we're going to build up to it and get to it with a few other ideas. But the other thing we must do is to act in a certain way. There's a chapter in the book, Wallace Wattles' book, called Acting in a Certain Way. So we are going to explore acting in a certain way. He writes, "You must not only rely upon thought alone, paying no attention to personal action. That is the rock upon which many otherwise scientific metaphysical thinkers meet shipwreck." I think that's pretty plain, isn't it? The failure to connect thought with personal action. So today we are going to connect thought with personal action. So before I get into what that means, I need to tell you something and invite you into something. The thing I need to tell you is that you are probably, unless this is your first time ever to explore this kind of thinking, if today, being here is the first time you've ever encountered our new thought thinking or anything that's out there in the world today that doesn't have that label, but is still nonetheless personal development and growth, it's all out there. Unless this is the first time you've ever encountered that, you have probably heard everything I'm going to say already. Because I've said it. You've read it. You've heard it from other teachers. You go online and take seminars, they're saying it. So I'm not going to say anything new today. But what I ask you to do today is to hear it with new ears. To let go of that phrase that is death to growth. You know what that phrase is? Who knows? I already know that. Oh boy. That is, thank you for that, Jeannie. Jeannie already knew that, so that's good. Right. Because here's the thing, as Ernest Holmes said in the reading that I offered you, unless we are demonstrating it on a regular, ongoing basis, we don't really know it. We know about it. There's a huge difference between knowing it and knowing about it. So even if you have heard, which I know you have, what I'm going to say, I invite you to hear it with new ears and to ask yourself the question, how am I really applying this? How am I really living this? Where am I? And that was why we took that little assessment. Now you're going to get even drilled down deeper into the things that will take you from a 1 to a 5 on the assessment that we did. How are you living them? All right, so are you up for that?
Yep.
Okay, all right, good. So before we actually get into acting a certain way, we actually must think in a certain way, because that will then compel action. Thinking compels the action. Thinking in a certain way needs to be founded on a couple of foundational ideas. And these ideas are really Science of Mind 101, but I'm actually going to give them to you through Wallace Wattles, through his words, and I'll add a little Ernest in there as well to see how much they correlate with Ernest Holmes. So there are three things, and we're going to see them each one at a time up there on the screen. So the first one is this. This is what we base our work on. There is one original formless stuff or substance. So let's just stop for a minute. Students of foundations, what do we know about capitalizing in a situation like that? What does that mean?
God.
Those are just different words for God. That's what that is. All right. So there is one original formless stuff, substance, from which all things are made and which in its unformed state permeates, penetrates, and fills all space. Just take a breath and think about that. Just be with that. There is unformed stuff, unformed substance, out of which everything comes, everything. But in its unformed state, before it has become something, it is everywhere. It is the very air we breathe. It fills us, surrounds us, enfolds us. It's everything everywhere. Ernest Holmes said exactly the same thing in our textbook, the book from which I read this morning, when he wrote, "We are surrounded by an intelligent force and substance from which all things come, the ultimate essence, capital E, in the invisible and subjective world of all visible and objective forms and conditions. It is all around us in its original state, ready and willing to take form." Same thing exactly. Foundational idea. If we're going to think in a certain way, we must recognize the power right there. You know, we talk about having faith. What do we have faith in? We have faith in that. And the other two things, which are, number two, a thought placed in this substance produces the thing that is thought. You've heard that a couple of times, haven't you? A thought placed in this substance becomes the thing that is thought. What are we thinking? What are we thinking? Ernest Holmes, I love this statement. He said, the starting point of all creation is the thought of God. It is the self-knowing mind speaking itself into manifestation. Powerful thing to know. Powerful thing to live from, not just, I don't mean know, I mean to know that our thoughts create. Okay, number three is, there is one, therefore, we can form things in our thoughts, form things, ideas, visions in our thoughts, which are then impressed on the formless stuff or substance and cause the thing we thought about to be created. That's how it works. That is how it works. Ernest Holmes said, our thoughts become things, our mental state takes on form, color, and temporary reality. We outwardly experience our state of consciousness. You've heard all that, but do we really live like we believe it? What is going on between this very, very expensive real estate right up here? Very expensive real estate, high-end stuff right here. What's going on in there? If you really knew that every thought you think is planted into this formless stuff that then is going to come out in form, if you really believe that, would you not perhaps pay a little bit more attention to what's going on in there? Yes, yes, yes. I know, I was thinking, God. So my charge to all of us is to stop knowing about this, but to know it. And to know it is to show it. To know it is to live from it. To know it is to let these ideas then inform what happens in there. To know it means I'm going to stand guard at the portal of my mind and not let anything in that does not support a higher expression of life through me and as me. I'm going to do what Emmett Fox says in The Golden Key. Many of you are familiar with a lovely little tiny booklet that's so powerful. He says, keep your eye on God. Turn your eyes to God, not the condition, not the circumstances. Look only at God. But if you forget that and you look at the circumstance and get all upset about that, treat it like you would treat an ember that flicked out of the fire onto your sleeve. If you flick that ember off immediately, flick it off, it does no harm. If you flick that thought off immediately, you just shift it over, you change it, you make a conscious choice to think a different thought, doesn't do any harm, no damage. But if you let that ember sit there, it's first going to burn through your coat, you've got a coat on, then through your shirt, then your skin. It's going to do damage. So is that thought that does not support your dream if you let it sit there. So don't do that. Live like you really, really, really believe that. Boy, I'm really preaching at you this morning, aren't I? I'm just feeling like I need to preach at you today. So hallelujah, brothers and sisters. Amen. So we have an opportunity in our world right now to think in a certain way. And it's the most challenging to think in a certain way when we have an issue in front of us that is scary. And an issue in our personal life. We've had an issue in our nation this week that on the human level, tragic experience that occurred in South Carolina this week of the shootings at the church. 9 people, including a minister there, they were killed. It was a racially motivated shooting. That is enough to cause us pause. And of course, it is important for us to feel our feelings around that and the grief. Our nation is in grief right now, and I know many of us are too, feeling that, and it's very important to feel and honor our feelings. It is also critically important to see, to know that there's a higher purpose, that there's something higher going on than this human dimension, and that the thing that is going on is a breaking down, I'm affirming and knowing final breaking down of barriers and walls to total and complete equality, to total and complete, I don't even like the word acceptance because it's beyond acceptance, to total and complete unity and oneness and recognizing that there is one life and that life is God and that life is my life and your 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 life. And it does not matter what color you are, what your sexual persuasion is, what color your hair is, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. That was for you, Kelly, because you have different color hair almost it's kind of not all that, it's kind of sedate today, but it's your conservative hair today, right? None of that matters. And I'm standing in the higher knowing, and I invite you to join me in standing in the higher knowing. Monitor those thoughts, our thoughts that want to go to revenge, our thoughts that want to go to anger. Because if we have those thoughts of anger and revenge, we just perpetrate the problem. But if we rise above that, feeling our human caring and love for those who are affected by this, absolutely sending caring and love. And knowing that there is a higher something happening and that those old prejudices that are so outdated that no longer never did, but so do not serve humanity are being broken down. And when things are shifting and changing, there is breakdown before the breakthrough. There is breakdown before the breakthrough. So we just know that these experiences that have happened in our nation this week are part of the breakdown so that there can be a breakthrough. And we actually thank and honor those souls whose soul said, yes, I will help the breakthrough. I will help the breakthrough by giving of my human life. So let's just take a moment right now. And absolutely know that in this formless stuff, we can place our thought, and our thought will be made manifest. And so what we make manifest right here and right now is a life, a world in peace, and a world where every human being, not just human being, every being on this planet is revered and honored and is precious in the eyes of each other and is absolutely equal in each other's eyes and is honored and revered. We do this for ourselves, and we do this for everyone. And we especially surround those in South Carolina this morning and those affected by this experience with our love and our compassion and our care and our gratitude for the sacrifice that they are making so that humanity might evolve. We are grateful for this, and we know this to be so. And so we release and let go. And with a deep breath, we say together, and so it is. This is when our thoughts matter. It's moments like this. So whether it's on a national scale or in our own human life, this is when it is so important that we stand guard the portals of our mind and we go to that higher place of truth. Ernest Holmes, in This Thing Called You, said, never let anything pass from our lips that we would not want to have come back in our lives. So I'm going to tweak that, edit that, and say never let anything pass between our ears that we would not want to have back in our lives. That is thinking in a certain way. And I love it when you share with me the way these principles have worked in your life. And I got an email this week from Gail Junta, who is in New York. So Gail, if you're watching the service, we wave to you. Gail gave me permission to share this. Actually, she was excited when I asked her if I could. I've been working with Gail for the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks about finding a new job. She's a teacher, and she felt it was really important for her to move into a different district. And actually, she wanted to move into a different type of teaching. She didn't want to do what she was doing before. Very much her heart was calling. She had that call to be in the area of art. She wanted to teach art. She's very artistic, and she decided she wanted to let that part of her really flourish because it hasn't. And so she wanted to teach art. So she's applied to a number of schools, and I'd been working with her on the mental equivalent. That's a lovely word we like to use for seeing in your mind's eye what you desire. And she's been applying, and I know had been applying. She'd been giving me updates on interviews and things. And then for about a week or so, I didn't hear from her. So I didn't know what was going on. This week, I got an email, and she wrote, I wanted to share with you that after not getting the jobs I thought I wanted. Okay, so right there, right? We can fall into disappointment, can't we? We can, oh, woe is me. And then she did a little of that, but not too much. So she said, I wanted to share with you that after not getting the jobs I thought I wanted, God gave me the perfect job for me. The highest salary of all the schools I interviewed, the largest and brightest art room, lots of windows and storage space, the nicest principal and support team I've met so far, and it is only 10 minutes from my home. Do you know that there is a part of me that is, oh, something bad is going to happen? How many of us do that? Yeah, okay, good, yeah. I love it how you fess up. Yes, I do that. Right? Something fabulous happens and our brain goes, oh, this is too good to be? Right, this is too good to be true. No, it isn't. It's not too good to be true. You absolutely, what's that? There's no such thing as too good to be true. Exactly. But here she said, do you know that there's a part of me that is, oh, something bad is going to happen. And then this is our teaching right here. Then I catch myself and take that thought back. Flipped off the ember. I catch myself and I take that thought back. I really do believe that listening to your affirmation CD and repeating the affirmations once or twice or even 3 times a day when I get really scared help me create the right job. So if you do not have the affirmation CD, you got it when you came for the second time. That's a second-time visitor gift. Or you're taking foundations, you got it. If you don't have it, just go ask and you can have it. She said, I think that helped me attract the job. And even though we just started reading The Science of Getting Rich, I feel that helped as well. So congratulations, Gail. Enjoy your vacation in New York for the next 5 weeks, and she comes back to her new job. Let's give her a hand. Way to go. But that's not enough. Our thinking in a certain way is critical. It must happen, but that's not enough. We must then act in a certain way. And I love this idea that Wallace Wattles says that it is through our thinking that we attract our good, but it is through our action that we receive it. It is through our thinking that we attract our good, but it is through our action that we actually receive it. You've got to reach out and receive it. He says your pocketbook is not going to be transformed into a Fortunata's purse, which shall always be full of money without any effort on your part. This is the critical point in the science of getting rich, a rich life, right here where thought and personal action must be combined. I love that idea. Your pocketbook is not going to be transformed into a Fortunata's purse, which shall always be full of money without any effort on your part. It does remind me of a little story I'd like to share with you right now. It's a story of a man who walks into a restaurant with an ostrich behind him. And he and the ostrich sit down in the booth, and he says, the waitress comes up, he says, I think I will have a cheeseburger, a side of fries, and a Coke. The ostrich says, me too. Meal is delivered, they have the meal, the bill comes, it's $12.65, and he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out precisely $12.65 plus a 20% tip. There it is. Next day he comes back. He and the ostrich find their favorite spot. Waitress comes up, he says, I think I'll have a grilled cheese, a side of egg salad, and a Coke. The ostrich says, me too. That'll be $13.90. Meal is done, bill comes, he pulls out $13.90 plus 20% tip, and there it is. Next evening he comes, ostrich in tow, orders a steak dinner, baked potatoes, side salad, and a Coke. Ostrich says, me too. All said and done, bill comes, $35. Pulls out of his pocket $35 plus 25% tip. She was really good this time. Gave it to her. So the waitress said, all right, you've been in here 3 times, and I'm just amazed at this. I've got to ask the question. Every time you've come in here, the bill has been different. You have put your hand in your pocket and pulled out exactly the right amount of money, plus my tip. What in the world is up with that? He said, it's the most amazing thing. A couple of weeks ago, I was cleaning out my attic, found a box of old stuff, didn't even know I had. There was this lantern in it. And I took the lantern out and I thought, wow, that's really pretty, but it's very tarnished. So he decided to just polish it up. And as he's polishing it up, poof, a genie comes out. And the genie says, I will grant you 2 wishes. And the man said, so my first wish was that no matter what I wanted, whether it was a small meal like this or a Rolls Royce, I would put my hand in my pocket and I have the exact amount of money to pay for it. And the waitress says, that was brilliant. That was well thought out. I mean, most people would just ask for $1 million, but eventually that might go away. You will have all you need whenever you need it for the rest of your life. He goes, yeah, it was really well thought out and brilliant. It was. And then the waitress says, but I got to ask. I've got to ask. So what's the deal with the ostrich? And he said, well, my second wish wasn't quite so well thought out. I wished for a chick with long legs. Now, I have to tell you, First Service told me to tell you that. I asked them, should I share this in second service or not? And they went, oh, share it. I think they just wanted you to be as miserable as they were. I think that is maybe now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably why they said that. So no, we did not have a magic, genie come out and wish and grant us the wish that we have magic pockets or Fortunata's purse, as Wallace Wattles says. We need to take action. So what is the action? He says it's a certain way, an action, acting in a certain way. Well, of course, one component of acting in a certain way is following the guidance that you get. How many of you in the last 2 weeks, because we've been talking about this the last 2 weeks, how many of you actually followed some guidance that you got? Let me see your hands. Oh, give yourselves a hand. Good job. Nicely done. The rest of you just turn that hearing aid up a bit because you're getting guidance. It's there. Follow it. That is the first way we act in a certain way. But the other way is to do the best you can where you are. Give the fullness of who you are to the moment that you're in. Maybe one of your dreams and missions and goals is to have a different job or a different career path. Maybe you are an artist and that is your love and your passion and your joy, and yet you're flipping hamburgers at McDonald's right now to pay the bills. All right, well, continue to support your artistry by doing what is yours to do, but flip the best darn veggie burgers, I will have to say, at McDonald's. Do they even have them? I don't know that they have them, but they should. I don't know. They should. I don't know if they do. But do the best you possibly can in that job. This is Wallace Wattles says, bring the fullness of who you are, all of your heart, all of your strength, all of your intention to the job that you are in now. I love this piece that he said. I want to share it with you. He said, do not wait for a change in environment before you act. Get a change of the environment by action. Hold with faith and purpose the vision of yourself in a better environment, but act upon your present environment with all of your heart, with all of your strength, and with all of your mind. So give everything you've got to whatever it is you're doing now. Maybe you don't have a job at all and you're looking for a job. So bring the fullness of who you are to whatever you're doing. If you're volunteering, bring the fullness of that. If you're going to the grocery store, bring the fullness of who you are to that. Act as if you are that person who is living the life of your dreams. And the person living your life of your dreams is going to be fully engaged in whatever you're doing. So act that way now. That is the certain way. That's it right there. It's not rocket science, but we have to do it. We have to do it. So I want to give you another story. Don't need because this is true. Amelia Earhart, you've heard of her, yes? Yeah. Right. I mean, who hasn't, right? An amazing woman. Always an amazing woman. But the things she did and the changes she made to this world didn't happen automatically or even easily. She, of course, had a pilot's heart. That is what she came here to do. She came here to fly. And that is what she did. That is what she did. But not always. At first, she couldn't get a job as a pilot to save her life because it's the 20s. She's a woman. Women don't do that. So the best job she could get, and not a bad thing to do at all, very important, but not her heart, was a social worker. She became a social worker. And brought to it the fullness of who she was. Did it the best of her ability, having that little bit of a dichotomy, but living in it fully and completely. This is what I want. This is who I am. I will live that. I see that. I am that. And right now I'm given my fullness to what I've got. And what she had at that moment was being a social worker. Gave her heart, her strength, her mind, as Wallace Wattles says. One day, and this is how it happens, my friends, this is how it happens. One day, out of the blue, she gets a call. The call came, and it wasn't actually a very, I don't know, you decide. I won't put a label on it, you decide. But many of us, if we got an invitation like this, might have said, go take a hike, no thank you. This was the call. The man on the other line said he had a proposition for her. He says, we have someone willing to fund the first female transatlantic flight. Now, you're not our first choice, but our first choice said no, so we're calling you. Also, you won't actually get to fly the plane. We're going to send 2 men along as chaperones, and we're going to pay them a lot of money, and you won't get any. And oh, by the way, this has not ever been done before, and so it's kind of scary, and you might die. But if you want it, it's yours. Wow, that's a really attractive offer, isn't it? So attractive. How many times has our good come to us, but it hasn't come in the package that we wanted? And in fact, there was something about it that, we didn't like at all. But it was what our heart wanted. It was our passion. Here it is. She's being offered to do something to live her passion. She set aside all her judgment, all her, upset if she had. I don't even know if she had any, but if she did, she set it aside because she had a vision and she wanted to act on that vision, and she had an offer to act on that vision, and so she said yes. That is what great people do. That is what people who do great things in the world do. So she did that flight, and she did it successfully. And less than 5 years after that, she was the first woman to fly solo, nonstop, across the Atlantic, and became one of the most famous and respected people, not just women, but were people in the world. She did it because she acted in a certain way, and none of it would have happened if she had turned her nose up at that. If she had said, nope, I'm offended by that. Nope, that's not exactly what I want. Nope, nope, nope. She said yes to the opportunity that the universe offered her. She acted in a certain way. So you have your idea for your vision. You see it and you live it by thinking and acting in a certain way. And that is how we experience our pathway of plenty, our journey of joy, living in Spirit's purpose, and how we're on our course of conscious creation. So I want to leave you this morning with some really beautiful thoughts from yet another letter that came to us from a very wise friend. And this is about that second piece of living in your journey, on your path of purpose, and how these tools can help that. So let me just share this. It's about purpose, although the word used is calling. It's the same thing. So here it is. I now realize that we don't actually get to choose our calling in life, but we do get to choose whether or not we will listen to each nudge and flare, whether or not we will believe, and whether or not we will be dedicated, that we will dedicate ourselves to this territory of homecoming within us. Sometimes I really wish that people understood how it feels to be me. Each and every day I have this big fire inside of me to move mountains. I want so much to use this gift inside of me to change so many lives. But the hardest job has been to move the mountains within my own life. Thank you for giving me the tools to move these mountains. So the tools are exactly what we've been talking about. Having the meeting, developing the relationship with our CSO, having the meeting, thinking in a certain way, and acting in a certain way. And I think if the author who wrote those words can do it, we can do it as well. So who wrote those words? You're good. Those words came in a letter this week from Leo Wright, who is a resident of the lovely hotel called Lewis Prison. Leo has been in prison for many, many years. He will be in prison for many more years. That letter came to Lonnie, and that is how Leo is living his life right now. If he can do it in prison for decades, many years in front of him yet to go, if he can do it in that environment, my friends, I think we can do it as well. Don't you think? Let's pray about it. So yes, there is one formless substance out of which everything is formed. There is one life, and this life is God. There is one energy that is behind, through, and as all that is. And that permeates everything, everywhere. In the words of that famous author, Dr. Seuss, there is no spot where God is not. There is no spot where unformed substance does not live. And it lives, of course, then in me. And it lives, of course, then in each one of us. We are, in fact, a manifestation of that unformed thought, that unformed stuff. God thought into that unformed stuff, I am going to form each person sitting in this room, watching online, listening to my voice. God had that thought, I am going to form that person and bring them into existence in this century. And here we are. God in form, God in expression, now thinking our thoughts into this unformed stuff, ready to mold it, to form it, to shape it, to bring into manifestation. And I claim this morning that as I speak these words into the law, that there is a higher awareness in each of us today, a higher awareness for humanity, and that our own personal human emotions and experience and grief around the events in the South this week are given support and love and upliftment by recognizing that God is all there is. There is one life. This life is my life, and this life is everyone's life, including those who are no longer on this earth plane. That is where we keep our thinking, and that is what I pray for and know for right now. And know that the events of this week have absolutely been a catalyst for a shift in consciousness of humankind, a shift of oneness, equality, unity for all beings on this planet. And I know for each one of us individually in our personal lives that as we go forth this week, that we absolutely make the connection between knowing about and knowing and choose to think only those thoughts that support that expansive life, and choose only to act in certain ways that support that expansive life. And that as a result, we in fact live that expansive life. Recognize and knowing that it actually is here right now already. So we are grateful that that is so. And grateful that as it is already perfect and it is already done in form and in manifestation, everything is being created new. So we create everything new right now with these words and with the way we live our life this week and in the next and in the next. And I'm grateful for this. I call this newness good, oh so very, very good. And in this celebration and gratitude, I let go, I let God, and I know that it is so. So together let us say, and so it is. Amen.